All right, I have got my 100% custom designed, modeled and 3D printed dash bezel there for my 7-inch Motec display. Came out pretty good. Now we're just going to assemble it, finish it, so we can get it mounted on the dash. Hi everybody, how are you? My name is Dan Dulac and welcome back to my channel where I am building a one-of-a-kind Ultima Evolution convertible. This one is going to have a V10 powered 5.2 liter engine out of the late model Huracan and or R8 with the 7-speed DCT transmission. It has been an amazing build so far. If you're new to my channel, first of all, welcome. We've got all kinds of work here. Hopefully you enjoy with this build. If you are into customizing, modifying cars through cutting and grinding, welding, brazing, fabrication with lathe work, mill work, 3D printing, CAD design, CNC plasma cutting, custom wiring, custom electronics, laminating, you found the right place. This is the right channel for you, so welcome. This is episode number 44. If you missed any of the other previous 43 episodes, be sure to go back and check those out. It's been an amazing couple of years as we've traversed through the very foundation chassis work of this build and working our way up to this episode where we're focusing all my attention on the cockpit and the front dash area. I've had to do a fair bit of 3D CAD design works, 3D printing, as I've done in previous episodes, making custom parts for this very bespoke Evolution convertible. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. All right, I've got the front cowl on the floor upside down because I'm getting ready to cut the hole for the steering shaft. I've seen a lot of different ways on how to find the hole in the dash to accurately cut for the steering shaft. Let me show you what I did. First of all, I took off the adapter and everything, so all that's left is a little stub here, which is nice because I could put the front cowl on, the dash on, without interfering with this. There was enough space in between the end of this shaft in the dash where I could, through the access panel that's here in the fender well, I could reach in and I put a piece of tape with a 1-inch circle on the dash that lined up perfectly there. So pretty easy, straightforward there. Let me show you what that looks like. Here's the piece of tape with my circle, and again that lines up longitudinally centered with that stub shaft. I'm gonna have to make this hole a little bit bigger, maybe 1.5 inches in diameter, but this will at least get me started, and I know it's in the exact right orientation on the dash. So let's get that thing drilled. right, I have got the front cowl or bulkhead fit up into place here. I've got a bunch of different holes marked off that I need to drill for example, wire pass through for the electronic mirrors. Got the hole cut where I'm going to mount my 8-button panel here. I'm going to put the Motec C127 display here with a 3D printed cowl that I'll coat with carbon as well. As you can see, I've got my steering wheel all mounted up with the paddle shifter base. Came out really nice. I'm going to finish this off, paint it, coat it, paint it, make it look like a factory piece. Came out really nice. I'm really happy with that. But diameter-wise, came out really good. I had to reduce the diameter of the paddles, or the width of the paddles, by about 1 inch, ½ inch per side, given that my steering wheel diameter is about 1 inch narrower than the Huracan and R8 steering wheel, for which those paddles were originally sourced. So those came out real nice. I'm really happy with that. I've also got a bunch of holes here, all marked out on the front. My battery stud posts, the reservoir for the fluid washer I've got here, as well as the brake fluid reservoir is gonna get mounted up here, and the pass-through hole for the windshield washer fluid pipe. And then I've got the wiper motor holes here, all marked out, in addition to the sprayer nozzle there as well. So I think I've got this marked out. I've already drilled the rivet holes that you can see here along the base, and I cut out a little half round or moon shape here just to go over my grommet there. And then there's one rivet head that's preventing this from sitting completely flush. I've got to just trim a tiny little notch there, so this will sit flush. So those are done, and then of course I'm going to have to mark all the holes here and along the top to rivet down to the body as a final step once that's done. I've got the covers here. Normally on these cars, this is where the fuse panels go. Given I have the Motec PDM, the PDM 30, no fuse panels, so this just becomes kind of just an access panel to get under here in the cowl area. There's one on each side. And these come with just flat aluminum covers. You rivet some holes, you put some holes here and put in some riv nuts there to hold them. But what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to use some carbon, create some carbon panels. So I have this sheet of carbon here. It's like 3 mil thick carbon. Here are the original cover plates, just aluminum cover plates. I'll use them as a template, and then simply cut out the carbon here and make some carbon panels there. So that'll be a nice trick little update and upgrade for this front cowl. The other thing I need to start thinking about is the interior. What I'm going to do about interior. As we've seen many episodes ago, I carpeted this rear bulkhead. Again, just help with some sound dampening. But also, once the seats are in here, you're really not going to see much of it at all. But rather than carpet the rest of the interior, certainly on the sides, I'm thinking of using some Alcantara, some foam-backed Alcantara, black Alcantara, that I will do on the panels, down the sides. I do have the Alcantara dash covering here with orange thread and orange piping here that will look nice. So this entire area, the front of the dash, the top of the dash, will all be Alcantara. Of course, I've got the Alcantara steering wheel. That's what I'm thinking. Let me show you some samples I have. So here are some samples I picked up from a company called Relicate. You can buy a lot of different OEM Alcantaras here, but I've got all different black colors. A basic one there, then there's a perforated one. It's got little breather holes in it. Then there's this foam-backed version. So it's about 3 mil thick in total, but it's really soft and plush. And then this is an exterior Alcantara. This is for outdoor use. This is a convertible. Of course, I never plan on driving this thing in the rain or getting stuck, but I suppose this exterior stuff might be a nice
insurance policy. If it ever does get wet, it will withstand the water. I am currently leaning towards this foam-backed Alcantara, given the soft plushness of it, and thinking I could cover the entire side pod area with Alcantara. And the beautiful thing is, this is thin enough, I could shave just the edges of this aluminum down to give me a little bit more tolerance between the cover and the aluminum, and then simply fold this over to give this a nice edge, a nice seam all the way around, and then leave this cover exposed carbon. I do have a front carpet area. So for the main footwell area, I did order from the factory a black with orange piping front carpet. The other thought is maybe having it, at some point, having an interior guy cover these roll bar tubes in the same Alcantara here as well. That would make it look trick. That's where I'm at. I've certainly got a lot of wiring to clean up still. Not a big deal, but getting this front cowl fit, pre-fit, holes drilled, get it ready to go. That's what I'm currently working on as well. One other thing I did is I actually, if you remember, well, many episodes ago, I installed these quick latch systems here, and I started to do it on the front. The post, you can see the hole here. This is where the post goes for the quick latch. And on the front cowl, I will cut the quick latch in here, and it will mount there. This is the original latch system here that goes on the front cowl. The other side's over there. I actually completely disassembled the latching mechanism so that this simply becomes a place to hold the post for the front clam. The latching mechanism will be the quick connect system that I put here. But I put these back on without the latching mechanism and put the posts back on the front clam just to give a way to center or locate the clam when it closes, and then give it a resting spot here. Just one other place of support for the clam, given that because I deleted this latching mechanism, your latches are on the outside, and then you've got these body posts here that will sit on. This will just be kind of yet a third spot. One mounting location, two, and then three on each side. That should give that front clam some nice support from any wind buffeting or vibration. So that's what I have done there as well. So it's been good getting this thing all prepped, ready to go. Next thing I'm gonna do is pull this back off the car and get all those holes drilled. It's just easier and cleaner to do it separate from the car. Then we'll work on getting all that wiring cleaned up and get ready to get this cowl back on. This will be the piece I put on really towards the end of the build, given that access to the wiring and the harnesses there. It's a little bit more difficult having to crawl underneath the dash to do it when you could otherwise just take this cowl off to do that. So it's coming together pretty well. I'm pretty happy with it. Let's keep this show rolling.
All right, next up was to design my gauge bezel for the Motec C127 display I have. So here we are in Fusion 360, my favorite CAD application. And this is just a quick run through of the design I made here. This is actually version number 2. Version number 1 was a little bit bigger, too big honestly, and I'll show you that in a minute. But here you can see basically it's a hollowed out bezel here. I will 3D print this in PETG plastic. It'll mount on top of the dash and is somewhat inset in the dash as well. You can see along the side profile, it'll contour around the front of the dash. And of course, using the C127 model here, that's what I used for the cutout, and to model this with perfect fit. Now the other thing I had to do with this is basically cut this into 2 pieces, print it in 2 different pieces. Here's the rear piece that I'll print separate, and then the front piece, which I'll print separate. And then I created some dowels, locating dowels, and I'll epoxy these 2 pieces together as one unit. And then I also modeled up the dash itself with the correct angle. It's about a 100-degree angle from the flat surface to the front dash surface. just again to test fit and model it out in 3D space before I actually print the real thing. So I think it came out pretty well. Let's get this thing printed. Oh yeah, and I wanted to show you the version 1 and version 2 here of my gauge bezel. On the left hand side you can see version 1. It is much bigger than version 2. I actually went through, 3D printed it, assembled it, got it on the car, and just realized it was far too big for the cockpit. And hence I went to the much smaller version 2, which I'm really pleased with. Alright, I've got this JB welded and bonded together, the two pieces. I actually filled in another little crack that was just from 3D printing. It shrank a little bit, but the other thing I'm going to do is I think I'm going to put a couple of coats of epoxy on this as well, just on the outside, just to give it some additional strength. This is 3D printed in PETG, so it is a little bit more harder material, a little bit more temperature tolerant material. But for even more added strength, I am going to do a couple of coats of epoxy on this just to give it that slick finish, really smooth finish. So when we go to glue on the Alcantara, it'll go on really nice. But this came out good. I did put a little extra epoxy in there, JB Weld in there, just so I could create a little bit of a fillet with my finger. And as you saw, I installed some of these heat set riv nuts in there as well, and that's how I'll mount it from the underside of the dash and bolt it to the dash. That's that. So we are close to getting this wrapped up and finished. I'll be sure to take some footage of that, of my sister helping me. Hopefully she doesn't mind being on video, and we'll get this thing wrapped nicely in Alcantara, and this will look great on the dash. guys, I've been working on this main dash area. I managed to get the bezel on, as you saw, laid down a template, drilled some holes, had to cut some holes for the Motec display to sit in, but let me show you what I got. I think we're at a good spot here, so let's check it out. All right, so remember, this is gonna be covered in Alcantara. I did a couple of coats of epoxy. It's all sanded smooth, ready for some glue for that Alcantara covering. You can see I've got the display in there. It fits nice. It's kind of countersunk into the dash a bit. And then when all this dash is covered in Alcantara, I think it'll all blend. Very nice. And my Motec keypad is gonna go here where you see the masking tape. That's gonna go there, again, center mounted. So that'll look good. And the only thing I have left to do is just cut the hole. Just have to cut the hole that's underneath this so that the wire harness can pass through and that I can reach my hand in there and unscrew the display if I ever have to take it out after this front bulkhead is completely in place. I've got some more holes to drill here. I've got to drill the holes for the riv nuts so that my carbon fiber covers will screw on nicely there. Same on the other side. And of course, I've got a bunch of holes up front. So just a few more to go, and then we could put this back on the car and do some final test fitting there. So good progress, it's going pretty quick. front bulkhead back on the car. Everything slides right into place. Getting good at taking this thing on and off. As you saw, I drilled all the holes for the front mounting locations on the bulkhead. The brake fluid reservoir gets bolted here. I've already got the bracket for this guy. And then I've got the battery posts here as well, so that'll be easy to recharge or jumpstart the car if I ever need to. Just open up the front clam and we have access there. So things are coming together here on this. I've still got to drill the holes for the wiper. I'll do that kind of towards the end once this is ready to go on for the final time. Next up, we're going to get this covered. I got to schedule some time to go up to my sister's place and have her help me sew up the Alcantara piece. I've got all my fabric over here. Let me show this to you. I've got some 1/4 inch foam backing here. This stuff is what I'll put on the dash before covering it, given the Alcantara dash has no backing. So I'll add some of this on there. Here is Alcantara. This will go over that bezel. So I've got 3 yards of this, and then I've got 3 yards of the foam backed Alcantara as well. So this is what I'll use on the interior, kind of on the luggage bins, tops and sides of the luggage bins as well. So this stuff is ready to go. I think we're in pretty good shape, making good progress here. So guys, that's gonna do it for this video. We're gonna keep plugging away on this cockpit. And as I mentioned, we're gonna visit my sister. She's gonna help me sew up the gauge bezel. We're gonna start getting the wiring tidied up. We're gonna start laying carpet and so forth in the cockpit. So things are moving along. The weather's starting to get nicer here in New England. So that's giving me some additional energy to get this thing going so we can get this sucker on the road. So until then, we'll see you guys next time.